Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tom Bilyeu Show live. Hey, the world continues to be in a state of disarray. But we're going to have some fun with it today, boys and girls, because I got legitimately anxious yesterday preparing for this show. And we will explain why. But goodness gracious, remember, as one of the core tenets of the channel is gallows humor. So we're going to have some fun, Drew, because that's all that there's left to do. All right, America descended on the World Economic Forum in Davos, and the sparks flew as America reminded everyone the old world order is as dead as disco. Speaking of dead as disco, the stock market lost a staggering $1.3 trillion in value yesterday as the Japanese bond yields skyrocketed. We're going to talk more about that and how that stuff can be counterintuitive. I know a lot of people think it was Greenland. Greenland is not your problem. That's a problem coming, but that's not the problem manifesting just yet. And I will show the receipts. We'll see. All right, Ray Dalio says the monetary order is breaking down and we are now at the brink of war. That was the one that gave me anxiety. Peter Schiff warns America that if they think things are unaffordable now, wait till they see just how much things cost when we're no longer the world's reserve currency. That one, that one's important. That I've been banging the drum. Yes, well timed. I've been banging the drum on that one. People are not listening, so we'll see. The Supreme Court has delayed their decision on tariffs for a third time, and there is a lot of speculation about what that means. We're going to dive in today on our take on what's going on. And Norway tells their people that they must be prepared for a war with Russia. I'm not making this up. And for wartime seizure of their private property. Not a good time. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey have been given federal grand jury subpoenas. And vigilantes in Minnesota are trying to pull people over, I'm not making this up, for driving reminiscently of ICE. And randos are getting attacked simply for looking like they might be pro-ICE. Not ICE, just pro-ICE. And it all begs the question, do you like your fascism to come in a liberal flavor or a conservative flavor? But your only choices are fascism. Welcome to the show, everybody. I hope we're doing well. Drew, how are you feeling on this Fascist Wednesday?
You just radicalized me now, so I don't even know what to do. Hands up.
We've got stuff. We were talking about stuff before we started rolling, boys and girls. And okay, so this is an incredibly important moment. You need to know what's going on. The whole point of the show is to give you guys information that actually influences your behavior. I have no interest in spinning up your emotions so that you can be in an emotional state. I want to spin up your emotions so that you go take action. And I remind myself as I'm preparing all this stuff, I can't just come to understand it. I actually have to do something about it. So I am making changes to my portfolio. I'll tell you guys what I do, but really, really, truly, you should not just follow what I'm doing because no one can see the future clearly. And so the goal is for you to think up from first principles. Maybe I'm right about some things, wrong about others. That is almost certainly true. And build your own internal model of how things actually work. Remember, we are all grabbing blindly for the physics of the human condition so we can figure out not what people think or what they feel, but how the world actually works. And so we're going to be getting into that today. Today feels different for me, Drew. Prepping for this episode was... We'll get to it because Ray Dalio really summed up how I
was just going to say, usually we jump in like, okay, this person said this, or this is the headline of the day. And I think this is the first time you're like, no, wait, we have to set the table.
Yeah.
Like, let's actually see what's going on in the world on a global level. And then we could get into the headline of the day. So I think a lot of things happen in Davos, a lot of things happen in Minnesota. We're going to cover all of that. But I think first we need to set the economic table because as you always say, economic is kind of the thing at the top of the hill and all this BS is kind of coming downstream from that.
That is correct.
All right. So I wanted to Ray Dalio tweet or
No, we'll start with my read and then we'll go to the tweet. But before I start that, today's going to be important in terms of putting all the pieces together, understanding what's happening in the world. So right now, if this show has ever added any value to you, will you just ping somebody, tell them to get in here? This really is me. I'm going to do the things I'm going to do in my own life because I have a working mental model of this stuff already. So I get on the camera to try to help other people build a mental model. So if there's somebody that you know that would benefit from this, now is the time, get them in here. Okay. So it goes like this. I sit down to prepare for the show. As usual, I'm scanning X to see what's going on, checking out the people that are in Davos. What are they saying? And I come across a tweet from Ray Dalio, which was extremely unnerving. We'll read the exact quote in a minute, but I want to set the full stage for you guys. So here goes. Ray Dalio is calling it. The monetary order is breaking down, and we're now on the brink of war, both internal and external. This is due to economic forces the world over that repeat throughout history and make this moment fairly predictable. At least in the broad strokes, nobody is going to be able to look at the specifics and tell you it's going to play out exactly like this. But when you step back, what we're going through right now really does become relatively predictable. Ray describes what's happening as part of a broader big cycle where interconnected economic and political forces lead to systemic shifts in the world order and global monetary policy. This includes a decline in, and this is the important part, it includes a decline in confidence in paper currencies and debt as a category, and they no longer view it as a good store of wealth. They largely being central banks, which means that they're going to get the dollars off their balance sheets. They're going to get US debt off their balance sheets. They're going to get debt globally off their balance sheets because people are losing faith that the world is going to be stable and that people are going to get their debts paid back. Okay, I just did a deep dive about this, tied to the spiking silver price. It comes out on Tuesday. Watch it. This is the end of the paper era. The paper era is the era where people can think of the world in paper terms, in terms of things you can move around on a computer screen. You can place bets on stocks, and gold is an abstraction, silver is an abstraction. Now, we can't think of these things as abstractions, as financialized assets. We have to think in terms of physical assets. Who holds what and why does it matter? Silver matters because the majority of its value, unlike gold, the majority of silver's value is in its industrial use. Okay, so it's actually a real thing that is powering our economy. You want to think about productive assets, companies that are actually doing a thing, that they are kicking off money. And you want to think about the fact that trust is breaking down everywhere. You've got obvious fighting between the US and Europe. China and the US are locked in a Cold War headed towards Thucydides' trap. You've got EU infighting. Germany saying, forget about these European kids. America, I want to team up with you. There is going to be all kinds of madness. France is saying that they want to be the big dog this time around. It is going to get wild. Now, one of the most important things that Dalio is calling out is that central banks are moving away from holding fiat currencies like the US dollar, debt in general, as I was saying, at least in the traditional manner, that they're going to opt instead. This is the banks are going to opt instead for alternatives like gold. They've been doing that aggressively for almost, I'd say, 18 months now. The erosion in trust in paper assets is being exacerbated by trade deficits, evolving into trade wars and capital wars, where the US government and the foreign countries that hold US dollar denominated assets are growing mutually distrustful. So each side has the other by the balls, and now each side is beginning to squeeze to see who's got the tighter grip. Now, you do not have to look very hard to see that global distrust is on the rise massively. And Ray warns that this monetary unraveling is intertwined with breakdowns in domestic political stability, so here at home, and international geopolitics. Hey, anybody been paying attention to what's going on in Minnesota? You've got that. That's going to spiral. There's stuff coming out of Ohio now. California's next on the government's radar in terms of places to go. You are going to see this kind of unrest spreading internally and externally. And this is pushing the world towards conflicts, including potential kinetic wars. Now, I obviously wish it were not so, but as I have mentioned before, 75% of the time throughout history, when the world finds itself in a situation exactly like the one we're in now, war is the outcome. It is getting harder and harder to see how we're going to pull out of this. But at the individual level, deploying an all-weather strategy, as Dalio calls it, is going to be key. This is something I've talked about many, many times. I've done deep dives about it. You have to buffet yourself against the different economic forces. So you are not diversified if you have 12 different AI stocks. That's just 12 different ways to expose yourself to one economic force. You've got to spread out across as many uncorrelated asset classes as humanly possible. We can certainly talk about that. But right now, boys and girls, stay safe out there and don't trade on leverage, for the love of God. And from my favorite carpenter and yours, don't forget, love thy neighbor. In freakishly unsettling times like these, people actually tend to forget that one. This is part of the problem, that people get emotional. They cannot handle the anxiety. They transmute the anxiety into anger, and they just start lashing out against anyone. We'll get into this more when you start looking at what's going on in Minnesota. The fact that they are tailing people, like random people who see themselves as the protectors of Minneapolis, are following random people in cars because they think they're driving in the same fashion as ICE drives. And then they want them to pull over so that they can be questioned. That is wild. Now, when you look at that through the lens of economics, all of a sudden this stuff starts to get a lot more clear. But you have to be looking at this stuff through the lens of economics. All right. You want to show Ray's actual tweet?
Yep. So you kind of hit it, but I'll read the first half because the second half turns into a call to action to sign up for his newsletter. But it's now happening. The existing fiat monetary order, the domestic political order, and the international geopolitical order are all breaking down. So we are at the brink of wars. It is all happening because of the big cycle that is driven by the 5 big forces I described repeatedly and laid out detail in my book and in the attached video. The first thing kind of fell, the first chip kind of fell yesterday when the stock market lost over $1.3 trillion in value. Right across the board. A lot of people are like, oh, this is Trump and Greenland. Trump shouldn't have done the Greenland thing. But what's the actual kind of play behind this reset, or I guess withdrawal of capital from the market?
All right, here it is. The stock market lost a staggering $1.3 trillion of value in a single day yesterday, and it highlights how volatile the unwinding of the current monetary order is going to be. This is not the first swing like this, and it sure as hell is not going to be the last. Because when the nature of debt changes, everything changes. And the nature of debt is going to change radically over the next couple of years for the reasons that I was describing. Central banks are losing faith in debt. The paper era is ending because global stability is ending. And when global stability ends and the people that owe you money are now your enemies, guess what? They just decide they're not going to pay you back. And so now debt becomes a terrifying thing to hold, but the entire global economy is built on debt. Here are the stats. U.S. equity markets plunged sharply on January 20th and 21st. The S&P 500 fell approximately 2.06%. The NASDAQ fell by 2.4%. The Dow was down 1.8%. And all of that marked the largest one-day drop in months. The sell-off erased all of the 2026 gains across U.S. stocks in a single session. Now, as Drew said, some people are claiming that this is about Trump and Greenland. It is not. That comes later. That is a problem. It's a big problem, and it's going to rear its ugly head, and it is going to be, I'm sure, similarly catastrophic. This just isn't the effect of that. This is about long-term economic forces that are finally spilling over in Japan. The Japanese yen carry trade, which we have talked about before, has been fueling the global economy for decades. I was saying debt fuels this stuff. Well, you've got to have somewhere that's giving you debt at great rates, and that somewhere has been Japan. And as rates climb, it's forcing people to sell off other assets that they bought on previously cheap Japanese debt. Okay, so Japanese debt used to be an easy place to get some money. You could get it really low, like 1.5% or something. It was ridiculously low. The stock market is here in the US. Last year, I think it kicked off like 16% or some crazy thing like that. So you can borrow at 1.5 and then you can put it over here in the stock market for 16. Now, it's not always going to be that high, obviously, but for decades, you've been able to get an arbitrage between the price at which you could pick up Japanese debt and then the price at which you could put it to work in some other risk-on asset and get a yield. You could even put it in the supposed risk-free return of US debt and still make a delta. Okay? Those days are now over. Japan's approximately $7.6 trillion government bond market experienced sharp yield rises with long-dated yields hitting multi-decade highs. Now, this can be counterintuitive. As the bond yields go up, the price is coming down. And as the bond price goes up, the yields are coming down. What happens is if people know that, oh, you can really trust this, you're going to get paid back over time, then the yield of that is going to be low. They don't have to incentivize anybody to pick up that debt because it's like, hey, this is a super safe place. As people become concerned that the debt is mispriced or that there's instability, then the price is going to go up because they have to find, or the yields are going to go up because they have to find a way to get people to come in and buy this. But to make the yield high, the price has to be low. So what you're seeing is the prices of Japanese bonds are dropping like crazy so that the yield can go up to entice people to come in. So basically, people are panic selling their bonds and they're getting out of the Japanese debt game. Because of the need to do that, because the yields are going so high, you're not going to have that free money sloshing around the global economy. And that's where this particular flash crash is coming from. Now, part of how I know this is true is because of the price action in Bitcoin. The important thing to understand is Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365 without delay. So you can see far more accurately what it's based on because the US stock market was shut for the holiday weekend. And the Bitcoin price dropped right around the sell-off of the Japanese yen. So Bitcoin fell below key psychological levels of the 89,000-ish range during the sell-off. Now, if this had been a Greenland problem, you would have seen Bitcoin and the markets react to the news on Greenland, but they didn't. They end up reacting to the news on Japan. Now, the extended crypto market drawdown wiped out about 150 billion in valuation, with Bitcoin leading the decline. So keep that in mind. Bitcoin's drop didn't drop with the news about Greenland. It was just perfectly synchronous with the news coming out of Japan. So again, this is not me saying that Trump's attitude, posture towards Greenland, towards Europe isn't going to have problems. It is. This just isn't that one.
Okay, so for the dude who's making pizzas in the back of the pizza shop and has 10K in the bank, he heard all of that and he was like, hey,
damn,
Tom.
First of all, if the homeboy making pizzas has 10K in the account, this is my man.
If he owns a pizza shop, I feel like he needs
a
little bit more operating confidence.
I didn't hear the word own. I saw him in the back, like clocking $7 an hour. Okay.
So when he hears all this, he was like, yeah, this is cool, Tom, but like, I need to worry about these pepperonis. What does this actually mean practically? Like, if you can sum it up in 2-3 sentences, I appreciate the expanse. And thank you for the econ bros are like, yes, we got it. We'll go do it. But for, the pizza flippers, give it to us kind of in the Lego, explain it to me like I'm 5 way.
Nice. Okay. If you can borrow money from mom and dad, you can go buy pizza, toys, whatever you want. So a lot of people are going to come in and buy that pepperoni pizza from you. When the kids can't borrow money from mom and dad anymore, and now they got to work like a whole lot of chores for a lot less pay, all of a sudden, they're not splashing out on pizza. It's only Nintendo and Fortnite, and pizza gotta go. So now everybody's gonna feel that pinch of there's just less dollars. People feel not only are people less rich, meaning they have less access to money, even if it's debt, but they feel less rich.
Got it.
And so now they start acting in a way where it's like, I don't want to spend this money. And so that's step one for somebody who owns a business. Step two that everybody needs to pay attention to is the way that you think of the world is now outdated. Your entire mental model doesn't make sense anymore. And if, for instance, you thought, I'm just going to save my money. I've obviously been screaming about this for a long time, but your toys are about to cost a lot, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That Fortnite skin about to be like $750, like $750,000. And so, like, are you going to be able to buy all the things you want? No. So you've got to start thinking very differently about how you think about your money. Okay. You've got to hide it from Bowser, who's trying to like fuck up your money hard.
All right, I'm gonna ground this again. So there was a couple workers in the chat that was like, Drew, that's me. So thank you for asking. I was like, all right, so we grounded that when there's not a lot of free money splashing around, people withdraw. So that's why the stock market pulled in.
Well, people actually, so some of the things are mechanistic, meaning as the nature of the debt changes, people realize, I've got to pay back my Japanese debt now because I can't make the delta anymore. Yeah. So now I'm at risk. So I've got to sell, but I've got to sell now. Whenever you have to sell now, odds are you're going to sell at a discount. When you start selling at a discount, it sends like economic pheromones into the world and people realize, people are selling at a discount. Something bad is happening. I'm going to sell now so I can get the hell out. And you see these huge dips because people are thinking short term. Mm-hmm. I see something like that happen and all my moves are far more metered, far more slow, dollar cost average, because I've got 3 years of cash on hand. Mm-hmm. That is subject to inflation, by the way. But I'd much rather be in that position knowing I'm never going to get caught off guard, that I can make well-timed moves in the market or hopefully better than most, because I don't have to be emotional about it. Okay, so that starts a cascade through the system. People start panic selling, and because most of the people in the market are trading on margin, so debt, $1.2 trillion of margin exists in the system. That debt has requirements that, hey, in your Robinhood account or wherever you're doing it, you have to have at least this much in collateral. If you don't worry, Drew. I'm just going to auto sell the things in your account to make sure that I, Robinhood, am fine. It's called being liquidated. And so if the numbers get off in your account, you could lose everything literally instantaneously at the speed that AI can detect, do the transfer, and now poof, it's all gone. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if that trade doesn't happen fast enough, you can find yourself upside down because it can go into the negative where we weren't able to sell your assets, but you still owe us the money.
Now you owe me. Yeah.
So it is a very high risk cascading sequence of events.
Got you.
So when it goes fast.
All right. So the stock market bros got wiped out, liquidated. That's the process that we've seen on the international stage.
That's going to be some of it.
Some of it. I'm bringing it back to the U.S. to kind of tie everything together. Now, on the U.S. side, we're seeing the U.S. Treasury bond markets to start to rise. And some people are saying those two things are tied. Scott Besson talked about it yesterday. I don't know if you want to cue that up on how the U.S. market is now responding to it, or is it just that it's a seesaw? That one goes down, so then the U.S. is now impacted because they're like mechanistically tied.
Yeah. So as the nature of debt changes, this moment happens to be tied to Japanese yen. As the nature of debt changes, you're going to see how interconnected the global financial markets are. Mm-hmm. And so people will borrow Japanese yen and invest in NVIDIA as one very real, very concrete example, because NVIDIA is like just returning like crazy. People think this is going to last forever. So they take that money out and they put it into NVIDIA.
Borrowing from Japan costs me 2%. NVIDIA gives me 30% returns. I pay the 2% off. I walk away with that delta.
Correct. And so when I become upside down because either the rate of the yen, that I have to pay back is now higher than the delta that I'm making. Or I look at the market and I see, the thing that I was counting on giving me a yield is actually negative. So now I'm going to owe that debt and I'm trapped in the market. So the question is, do I panic sell and take a big loss on what I bought it for, but I can still pay back my debt? Or do I hope that, fingers crossed, that we don't stay in this position and I've got plenty of time to go back and pay that off later? And so people start selling because they think, well, I've already made a bunch of money, so I don't need to make more, but I cannot have the exposure of the debt in Japan because I don't know where this is going to stop. And if this is Japan essentially collapsing economically, well, this may go like that for 5 to 10 years. And so it's not like I have any safety guarantees whatsoever. So I'm underwater on NVIDIA, but I'm still ahead of my debt. So let me liquidate. Lost a bit, but I'm not going to be negative in my account. I'll pay off my debt. I'm good. But that then causes a cascade in the value of NVIDIA. And because people do not understand that the stock market is a casino, they don't realize that this is all just paper value. It's worth whatever somebody says it's worth, not $1 more, not $1 less. And so when people panic for that period of time, it's really worth less. And so people can get trapped. They get emotional because they don't know, is this going to be down forever or is this going to be down for 24 hours? So they panic sell. And then that drives the price down even more. It starts liquidating more people because the value of their stock, which is on AI's light speed level, is like, well, you dip below the liquidation point for a millisecond. Tough. Yeah. It triggers a cascade of events where you get wiped out. And so that's how the red just tumbles and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until basically everybody's liquidated and then it stabilizes again. But then that's a lot of people that just got, in some cases, lost their entire net worth.
Yeah. So out of that 1.5 trillion, these are actual portfolio accounts and things that are kind of impacting.
Dude, like this is why as I tried to wrap my head around the stock market, it always pissed people off. But I would say, wait, this is like trading baseball cards. That was my first understanding of it in my 20s. And everyone laughed at me. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And now the more I learn about it, it's like that curve. It's like idiot says this is like baseball cards. Guy in the middle's like, you don't understand how sophisticated this is. And then the guy that actually understands it's like, this is like trading baseball cards. Yeah, I've gone on that journey. This is like trading baseball cards. This is a casino. They are only worth what people say they're worth. Even something that pays dividends can trade below what you would make just collecting the money off the dividends. Doesn't matter. It only trades at the price that people are willing to pay. That means this is a psychological game. That means you are gambling on what the emotional state of people is going to be. Period. End of story. Anyone that says any different than that is fucking lying to you. Now, or they just don't understand it, which I will never get.
They're lying to themselves based off the story that somebody else told them.
Correct. So, now, the stock market has huge advantages. It's good. It's amazing. Debt has huge advantages.
That's
it's
wrong.
good.
That's
it's
amazing.
Next.
Yeah.
But oh my God, this stuff becomes a problem.
And then now, as we were talking about this, we were talking off camera about some of the guys here. We're talking about like, okay, the Japanese bond market breaks. U.S. stocks are going to take a tumble. Is the S&P 500 dead? Should we go to gold? I have 6 months of cash in my bank account. Should I leave that in there? Should I move it? So now, again, not investment advice, things like that. But when we're getting a lot of noise about gold and Bitcoin and bond markets and me sitting on my 6 months of like, hey, what do I do with this cash? What should I do? Should I invest it? Should I hold it? Should I wait for the bottom? Should I buy the dip? I'm not trying to figure out I don't know how to navigate this next path. So if you can now say you set the table on what's going on from the macro perspective on it, but from a micro perspective, what the day-to-day person can do, where they should put their money and what hypotheses they should like use in order to make those decisions. Let's start talking about that now after this backdrop of all the debt in the global markets.
Okay. I will walk people through the way to think about it, the mental framework. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I do not advise people to attach their boat to my way of thinking. They need to formulate their own way of thinking. That way we don't both get wiped out should I be making poor decisions. But it goes like this. So you're trying to understand the structural forces because there are pretty knowable ways that people react in certain circumstances. This is why the best companies can win year after year after year after year. They have a mental model that works in a broad enough set of cases that, Bridgewater is made money on balance. I think they've been down like maybe 1 year or something out of 30. It's ridiculous. They don't always make the same return that other things make, but I think they've been positive except for maybe 1 or 2 years. So it's like that says that you have a strategy that works. That's not luck anymore. So the way to think about it is to map what those economic forces are. And so the Japanese yen carry trade is a great example because it says when there is arbitrage to be made, meaning I can buy something at one price and then apply that, I can get money at one price, and then I can apply that money towards something that gives me even more money back, that people will do that all day. Okay, that there is so much economic incentive to do that arbitrage space is always going to be consumed. Okay, so then what happens when that begins to unwind? Well, first, now you have to understand debt and all that. Okay, so because we've already gone through that, just know we're now in one of those times where everything's precarious. So what do we do in a time where countries don't trust each other? So the world order is unstable. I don't know who's going to be friends today and who's going to be friends tomorrow. I don't know if people are going to war. I don't know what that's going to do. I don't trust people to pay back their debt. So you start setting the table like that and you go, okay, well, in times of massive uncertainty, what are the usual plays? One, recognize with massive humility that you cannot predict the future well. So you want to have a diversified portfolio that diversifies across economic forces. So what are the economic forces? You've got things like high risk. So when you've got high risk, you've got a lot of volatility. That's going to be the area that pulls back first. That's why you see these lightning crashes in the price of the stock market in a way that you're probably not going to see in something like gold. Gold typically isn't going to go up super fast. It's not going to go down super fast, not by huge swings. Because what gold has shown over time is in times of uncertainty, people go there not because they expect a massive return. They go there to protect themselves against inflation. And so they're just moving to that saying, this is where you park your money when you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. So it is as close to I'm going to bury my money in the backyard as you're going to get. But I want to bury my money in the backyard in a way that it can't be inflated away. So cool. Gold has been that forever. Bitcoin is trying to be that. Bitcoin trades more like a tech stock right now, but I think that it's got long-term legs, but that's a me thing. So people need to be thoughtful. They need to formulate their own opinion about what they think about how the human mind is going to react to Bitcoin. I have a thing that says the world is only getting more technical. When you start thinking about wanting AI to be able to do whatever the hell you want it to do, you're going to give it digital money. You don't want that digital money to be owned by the government. I think everybody sees now, people alive today will see how rapidly a government can become unstable. And so I think they're going to go, yeah, don't want anything controlled by the government. Government has a history of seizing gold. When protesters started getting shot in Iran, the price of Bitcoin went skyrocketing there because they just started gobbling up as much as they could. And so it's like, and sorry, prices aren't local. They started buying rapidly there.
It outdid the local currency.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think people will look at that and go, this is decentralized. I like that. It's far easier to move than physical gold. That's my beef with physical gold. Also, I feel like I can quote unquote see it. Whereas gold, I'm just taking somebody's word. No, you really do own physical gold, Tom. It's all good. So I'm like, So anyway, you start doing that. So my portfolio looks like I still own quite a bit of debt, but it's all extraordinarily short term. It's all U.S. debt primarily, though I do have some corporate, but I've been slowly backing out of that for the last year. The reason there is that I know that they'll at least print money to cover that. And so at least U.S. government debt is saying every holder of dollars will suffer as Tom suffers. So I'm like, okay, like there's some balancing thing there. But I am going to be migrating more and more out of that into things like gold mining stocks, silver mining stocks, Bitcoin, I'm already massively deployed. ETH, I'm already massively deployed, but I might start picking up some more there. International exchanges, so that I'm still in risk on markets, because I think that's important, because you don't want to miss out on something that goes up, because again, I don't think I can see the future clearly. I'll stay in the US, just not overly indexed on the US. and just try as much as possible to spread my risk around with a profile that looks like somebody who is paranoid that the world order is no longer stable.
Do you do any money markets, like savings, that type of thing? Or do you just keep cash as cash? And
Well, no. It's all in short-term government debt. So
Copy.
Treasuries, bonds.
Copy. Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
some amount, but very small, is like legitimately in a savings account.
Yeah.
But that's small. Most of it is like
'cause
30-day treasuries.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Cool. I know everybody's situation is different. We can't go specifically case by case doing portfolio analysis or anything. I tried to start really, really low and get really, really complicated to kind of cover everybody's mention. But talk to people in the chat. If you got more questions, drop them. Maybe we could cover them later on in the show. Okay, so you kind of gave us the global market, how it affects the individual.
I'm sorry, by the way, just I saw one question in the chat that so they're like, okay, good for you, but what about us? That is for you guys. So this is where I am always emotionally traumatized, that people do not think that they have enough money to invest in the stock market, and you downgrade your life in whatever way you need to in order to start saving money. And listen, I understand if you've got kids and all that, the emotional pain of that may be worse than just rolling the dice on economic uncertainty. I totally get that. I've got nothing but empathy for it. But no matter what, you need to find a way to save money for your own emotional reasons. Everybody, hopefully, at this point knows the story of the janitor who retired a millionaire because he just lived super frugally and socked away, whatever, $25 out of every paycheck. I forget what it was, but it was a ridiculously small amount of money. But over the 40 years that he worked, that compounding interest became incredible. Yeah. And so when you're playing a 40-year game, then you really can start to make money. Getting rich quick is not going to happen. So right now, the thing that I would most aggressively people to form a mental model around is, how do I protect myself from instability? And the things that protect from instability are the things that we've been talking about. They are going to be commodities, productive assets. And part of the reason that commodities like gold are so important is there's no counterparty risk, or at least you can limit it. So that Bitcoin again. So don't buy silver now because it's hot. Don't buy silver now thinking that it's going to go up in price. Buy silver now because you have a mental model that goes something like 60 to 70% of the value of silver is determined by industrial use. It's used in high-tech manufacturing. It's going to be important in robotics and AI. Therefore, it's likely to maintain its value. That this is not a thing that people can just one day go, no, we don't care about silver anymore. So if I had money in silver, while the price may not go up and it may even go down, it's not going to go down if all hell breaks loose and inflation goes crazy. That's going to probably remain relatively stable. It will have drawbacks, as all things do, but that's probably going to be relatively stable. When you think about inflation can get into the double digits, that's where that kind of thing gets scary. So I don't know what other words to say to people other than, I get it. Like, if you don't have a lot of money, I understand that you're going to be deploying small amounts of money to the things that I said. But part of what makes the stock market the magically delicious thing that it is, you can buy a fraction of a share. So get in. There's such things as penny stocks. Not that I'm advising that. I'm just saying that for somebody to say they can't get into the market because they don't make a lot of money is nonsensical, and is exactly how you get wiped out, because you're not looking at, okay, well, how do I put $100 into gold, whatever, but find ways to start socking away some money and protect yourself as much as possible from inflation.
And Mark Cuban said it best. The most guaranteed return you can do is pay off debt, because if you're paying 23% on a credit card, you get 23% returns if you just pay your credit card off. And that money could go into your pocket instead of to Capital One, American Express, wherever you send it to. So
yes, and I agree. Penny stocks should not have even come out of my mouth. I am not telling people to buy penny stocks.
Okay, so I feel like we started at an international level, and now we're kind of seeing it bubble up to the global level. Now let's go to Davos, where all the rulers, all the PMs and stuff get together. I want to start with Canada, PM Carney, because he said two things that were like bars to me. And I want to cue this up. They're going to be two different clips. The first one is him talking about the rupture in the world order, talking about where we are now versus, I think the one thing that stood out to me was like, nostalgia is not a strategy. We can't hope that we're going to go back to where it was. Yeah. And then I want to go to this narrative that we keep talking about like us v. China. So 2 clips, 30 seconds each. Let's jump into the first one.
Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
The source of your subordination. And, we're all he's passive aggressively talking about Trump in there, about how he's using tariffs as leverage.
Yep.
And then the second one was
But what I love is this is the same guy that's going to be going into bed with China. And China is the king of saying, yeah, you can't have any more of these. We're going to control it.
You stealing my thunder, Tom. You're stealing my thunder.
Right, let's hear it.
Here we go.
And it is an interesting reversal, though, because I think certainly during the Biden administration, there was this sense that the Western world was trying to decouple from China, or de-risk at least, and is now in this new world that really going to go into reverse, and de-risking from China because there are other risks is less of a thing.
You need, again, many in this room, this is their livelihood, you need a web of connections. And to miss out in that web some of the largest ones, United States, we already have that, China, India, Mercosur, European Union, that's a mistake. That's not managing your relationships properly. That makes you stronger, makes you more resilient. And then on top of that, I'll give you again, I'll appeal since it's in the headlines to the Nordics. Nordics plus Canada, it's 20% of global GDP. It's not the first thing people would realize, but that relationship, which is deepening for security reasons, because we're like-minded, those are the types of partnerships that I think we'll see more of.
And you've got to.
And then
he's right about all that.
One more thing I want to throw on top of this, and then I will throw it to you, is the Peter Schiff tweet, because I think this is the backdrop of all of this. Is that Peter Schiff tweeted, "Trump has given the world the motivation to do what it should have done on its own decades ago. If America thinks that an affordability crisis now, wait until they see what happens to consumer prices and interest rates when the world pulls a rug on the U.S. dollar."
Yeah.
So hearing PM Carney, our literal next door neighbor, saying we need to start getting in bed with China and India, us and the Nordic countries, Denmark, and up top, we make up 20% of world GDP. To me, that sounds like we're going to kind of divest from America, and we're going to start talking to all these other countries who are also in the world. That's going to have an impact on our debt. And then that's going to be kind of another second order consequence. So I know I threw a lot at you just now.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So, all of this is true. So here's the thing. Carney is not wrong. You need a web of connections. You want as many people as humanly possible to want to do business with you. What people are about to see play out that is going to be very disconcerting is all of the pretense to morality and all of that is luxury. Like, you can be like that when you've got America and America's willing to trade with you. You've got a bunch of other allies you're feeling good about. But I will remind everybody that America got in bed with Stalin to stop Hitler. Stalin killed way more people than Hitler killed. Way more. So it's like, bro, what are we even talking about here? So the reality that people will get in bed with whoever they need to get in bed with, and they will justify it however they need to advantage their people, that's going to be a bitter pill to swallow. But remember, we've been doing business with China for a very long time, and there are rumors, I can't verify, but they seem pretty believable, that Uyghurs are in concentration camps. So it's like, you make cool, cheap shit. I need them silicon chips, brah. So it's like, if I can only get those with rare earth minerals, I need my drones, I need, a gazillion other things coming out of China. It's like, well, I'm going to turn a blind eye to the fact that you've got people in concentration camps. That's what humans are like. Welcome to the party. So, this is very sad. I do not like this moment. I have not enjoyed being in a populist moment. I will tell you right now that the 80s were way better. It was all a lie then too, but nonetheless, it felt better. It felt better to believe that America were the good guys. It felt better to believe that we were morally righteous. It felt better to believe that we were a nation of quote unquote untouchables that could not be corrupted. I really believe that America was effectively zero on the corruption scale until about 24 months ago. That's crazy now to think, bro, 24 months ago, I was in my late 40s. So what?
Must have been nice.
It was nice. It was lovely.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yes. There really is truth to that. But I have to concede that nostalgia is not a strategy. Yeah. And so wanting to go back to that doesn't work. Part of what I'm doing with Kaizen is I really do want to create something for kids specifically to help them develop a mental framework that is optimistic, that is hopeful, that is about retaining your own power, understanding what you have to do to like build yourself up in the pursuit of hopefully very honorable, noble goals. That is a psychological pressure release valve for me that I realize I need. The deeper I go in this stuff, the more I'm like, yo, children are our future, teach them well, let them lead the way. Like to make a contribution there feels far more meaningful to me than to even to help people with their money, which is interesting. I'm gonna have to reconcile that. Yeah. But that feels very important. The human psychology is the thing that we're watching play out in real time. Economic forces are human psychology made manifest.
Yeah. And I think there's like an interesting line right now, and I'm going to throw over to Howard Lutnick, what he said about the EV and the battery market. It's just that it seems like the Trump administration is kind of exacerbating this global split, or is it just Trump's fault? I don't know. But Howard Lutnick kind of said it in a very way about how we need to start worrying about ourselves. But I don't know if this is selfishness or, to your point, this is just a populism uprising. But let's kind of hear what he has to say. He was also at the World Economic Forum.
The World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay, and so that is a different way of thinking.
There's only aligned
It is
interests.
completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe?
This is, you're going to need to really focus us on this, but one of the interesting things there is for the last, 5 years, I have had this recurring thought that the real problem is that some people just need to be chased by a lion. And when things are too good, people really start acting a fool because some of the things that we've done, everything is downstream of the cost of energy. And yet we've been doing things that raise the cost of energy. We know that as you industrialize a nation, they become more concerned with the environment. But we have been slowing the industrialization of many of these nations because we want to make sure that we hit green targets right now. We put out prognostications about how rapidly sea levels were going to rise and ice caps were going to melt, and it didn't happen. And yet we just keep plowing forward. And so it's like at some point you really do have to stop and go, okay, what actually works? What does the data show us? How do we get in line with that? Rather than everything is going so well that we can pursue these idiotic policies that don't do anything in the short term, but in the long term, they begin to erode your stability. Europe is in disarray. They're an economic mess. And once they have to start paying for their own military, they are going to be aghast to find what that does to all of their other social programs and how that they're actually going to deal with that. And when you've got Norway saying, yo, we've really got to prepare for war with Russia, it's like, ooh, suddenly, where are you paying for all the migrants that are coming in and absolutely are freeloading? I'm not saying every migrant freeloads. I'm saying when you create a system like that, there is going to be massive freeloading. It is the architecture of the human mind. Every arbitrage will be exploited. Just like you see in the financial systems, you will 1,000% see in stuff like that. Now, you can do that when NATO protects you and you don't have to have a gigantic standing military to push back one of the biggest, most powerful countries on earth. But suddenly when you have to do that you get real fast about where your money's going. And so all of this stuff is going to get crazy. Okay, going back to the central thrust of what Lutnick is saying. Lutnick is saying, in no uncertain terms, that globalism has failed Americans. And that is absolutely true. The thing is, though, it's like debt. For decades, it was awesome. It becomes pathological over time. If we had been restrained in the way that we globalized, it could have remained miraculous literally forever. But it is not within the human ability to not get overly intoxicated. If one beer is good, 30 beers is great. You end up vomiting, blacking out, not remembering everything, fucking doing stuff that you're going to regret for the rest of your life. That is human nature. It is the rare person that can be like, two's my limit. And we've made that mistake on debt. We made that mistake on globalism. And the problem is this all goes back to central banking. Remember, behind the scenes are people that understand how to hoover up wealth from basically everybody, if I'm completely honest, because it is a tiny number of people. But they understand that by creating a central bank that can inflate the currency, that they can steal wealth from anybody. You can bury it in the backyard. You can put it under your mattress. It won't matter. They can reach that money anywhere at any time without even needing to know how much you have. And because they understand how the game works, even though you can actually play it, people won't play it. And so they don't buy assets. And on top of that, once housing becomes unaffordable, the one asset that women will force men to buy, it gets out of reach. And so now the one thing that has evolutionary pressure for people to do, whether they understand it or not, buy a house, get into an asset class that will shield you from inflation. People can't even do that. Oh, it's wild. And it repeats over and over and over and over because humans can't stop themselves. That debt is amazing. It built America. Printing money, if you're the one in control, ooh, buddy, it's amazing. Gets you jets, gets you big houses, big buildings, all kinds of shit.
Get you white women, get you cocaine.
Damn. If only I'd known. If only I had known sooner, Drew. Okay, it's good.
Thank you for that, G. Lutnick had the bar, though. We stopped it right before the bar, though. I feel like this is the one that got me.
All right, let's hear it.
Agreed to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery. They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
Europe agreed to go net 30 by 2030, and they don't make batteries. So if you are saying that I'm not going to use any more gas, but I don't know how to replace that electricity, you are pretty much saying I am vowing to become a customer of China.
Yes. So what's happening right now is you've got a woman who got slapped by her husband, and she's like, well, I'm never going to be with this asshole again. And she rightfully leaves him. And then she starts dating a guy who spent 10 years in prison for beating 3 of his wives to death. And she's like, but he's never hit me. And so it's like, do I need to remind people what China was doing in the 70s? Do I need to remind people of Tiananmen Square? Do I need to remind people that Xi is more like Mao than Deng Xiaoping? It's like, what is happening right now? So this is emotion. People are being fools. People need to understand, America is doing its best to make it clear we're going to do what the fuck we want. We are strong. We will do as we will. You are weak. You will suffer as you must. America's sending out the message loud and clear, and it's being received. But rather than people go, oh, cool, I need to switch how I think about America. They don't have my interests at heart. I need to be transactional with these guys and figure out what do they have that I need? What do I have that they need? And we just find a way forward. Instead, they're so mad about the fact that it happened in real time that they're ignoring China's own stated goals. So it's like, kids, if you think, cool, I get it. America's in a new box. I hate it, but I get it. China is in a far more terrifying box from where I'm sitting. So people will see the consequences of their actions.
Okay, I'm going to go on a quick fractal.
Please.
And then we're going to super chat.
Let's do it.
It makes me think of globalism and like old school colonialism, imperialism, and why all these things came to rise. Because if you really think about Britain, a small island in the middle of the world, literally, and how they were able to expand their empire, they had to roll up to other people's shores and take their stuff.
Correct.
But now in the year of 2026, where I can't just take your things, I have to make a deal with you. Now people are getting bent over the barrels because your army's bigger than me. I can't just be like, hey, China, I'm taking this oil, or hey, India, I'm going to take your spice trade.
Yeah.
Now it's, hey, India, do you mind having some spice for me? You know what I mean? And now
yes, I do. In fact,
powers.
go to, what line is this? It is 41. So pull up this tweet. I was like, damn, there literally is nothing new. So it goes like this. In 1917, the U.S. bought the Virgin Islands from Denmark for $25 million. Danish leaders resisted the sale, so Secretary of State at the time, Lansing, warned that if they didn't sell, we would simply take them to prevent Germany from gaining a foothold in the Western Hemisphere. They soon sold. So basically, this is an old strategy of give me all your shit. And the problem that we have with it is in the age of social media, it's like you see it all and it's gross as hell. And you're just like, oh, God.
Back in the day, it was a letter and a horseman and all this other stuff. And I was on the farm, so I didn't even hear about it.
Exactly. And then your man came back and he had a whole bunch of gold. You were just like, oh, you guys are dope. And it's like, yeah, we went there. Oh, man, like basically Neanderthals running the place. Like they're not even human. And so we ran through them, took their shit. It's rightfully ours. God obviously wanted us to have this. And so we took it in the name of God. I bring this all back in the name of God. And so God compelled me to chop off the hands. God compelled me to have gold quotas. It's like, as God will do. And so that's what it was like back then. And then Vietnam changed it all because cameras got in there and people were like, oh my God. And now we have this psychotic feedback loop of the algorithm is like, yeah, protest ICE. Or yeah, these guys are insurrectionists pushing back against just federal authorities. And your algorithm is going to tell you, you are right. You are right. Your way is God's way. And so now everybody is just convinced that they are right and they just keep fighting. So you put all that together. People cannot stomach the things that they see. They don't have to, though, because very quickly the algorithm is only going to show them people that make them feel the way that they want to feel. And so they're going to be like, yes, my side is right. I am just. And we will go haywire because humans are both the shout and the echo. And so we do a thing and then we see how the world responds and then we get in line. As Howard Lutnick was saying, that the WEF is the flag that blows in the wind. Humans have to have a tendency to blow in the wind for that to be true. And humans really have a tendency to blow in the wind. Nobody, other than Ted Kaczynski, wants to be completely isolated. So it's like, yep, if the world gives you enough negative feedback, you're going to fall in line. Or maybe more distressingly, if the world gives you enough positive feedback, you're going to fall in line. And I think we're going to see a lot of that with the fraud, where it was like, I can turn a blind eye to this and get elected, or I can make a moral stand and be somebody that nobody's even ever heard of.
Man. All right, let's jump to the super chat, and then on the backside we got Minnesota.
Let's go.
Cool.
Minnesota
First up,
refusing
Super
to
Chat.
get out of the
From
news cycle.
LeBlanc, the EU stuff is just a stress test for loyalty as a prelude to major war. Also, if Europe tried to divest from the US, all the US has to do is block shipping and EU sinks into infighting. Divesting isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's like, well, how far are we going to escalate things and how well will they coordinate? Because make no mistake, they really do have a, what are they calling it? The nuclear option. They have, if they just start, to their own detriment, but if they just start dumping US treasuries, it will hurt us. And if we think that we will somehow magically experience no problem from that, we're being delusional. So anybody that owns US debt really does have a card to play. And if they all start playing it in a coordinated fashion, that would be very bad for us. Now, we would have our own retaliatory measures, but like, what is it? If you do an eye for an eye, everybody ends up blind. It's like, this will brutalize the global economy. Brutalize. So it doesn't mean that we won't be the ruler of the smoldering heap of rubble, but it does mean that you're in economic ruins. And how long does that last? 10 years, 20 years, 100 years? That I don't know. So yeah, this is why traditionally building alliances is a lot smarter than going in and just saying, I will keep beating you until the morale improves. Because let's say that you cow them and you do all that and you block shipping and they're like, oh God, and they relent. Do you think that they relent and they're like, we love you though. That was, thank you for making us see the error of our ways. Or do they go, fuck this kid, and in every private meeting, they are looking for a way to fuck him up? Keep in mind, these are the same people that turned off an escalator the second he and his wife stood on it to embarrass him and maybe hopefully make him fall. Like, people can be petty, man. They can be real petty. So yeah, it's not the ideal game. I will tell you that. This is
Cool. We got two more. First up from CD Anders. In 2026, please consider getting in touch with James from Invest Answers. He is knowledgeable about the macroeconomy, financial risk management, investing, artificial intelligence, and crypto and tech stocks.
Drew, you want to put him on the list?
Cool.
Noted.
We'll
Check
look
him
into
out. Thank you for the recommendation. Much
last
appreciated,
one.
especially tied to a super chat. It's very generous.
Sorry, this is late. I don't get to watch the live. Can you please say where you've seen news on the 18th of January at 6 p.m., the first Bitcoin drop? My grok seems to disagree with you, and I would like to broaden where I get my info.
I'll have to pull that up. I'm not sure that I grabbed the chart, but there was a chart on X. Let me see if we have it here.
Jeopardy music.
No,
As he looks.
I don't think I pulled
you
it.
have it too.
Do we really? Hey.
Let's go. That was
Thanks.
quick, man. You really
Thanks.
got there.
I be trying to be.
I'll have to dig it up.
All right, well,
no.
we'll get there.
This makes me feel like I'm in Mario World.
You're in what?
Mario World. Like,
Oh, Mario.
Yeah,
World.
kind of. I see that. So I feel bad that you spent a super chat on that. So can we please remind me to track that down so that we can at least drop it in Discord or something?
Copy.
That'd be
Will
great.
do.
Cool. We got you.
All right. In Minnesota, officials are getting subpoenaed by the FBI. A grand jury has released subpoenas for Governor Walz, Keith Ellison, Jacob Frey, Cowley Hurd, John Choi, and Marty Moratti. People in Minnesota who are officials.
There we go. We're not going to be reading those names twice.
Nope. It seems like Minnesota's the thing that won't go away. I'm gonna go to the police chief next, but just initial
it's really
reactions.
going away.
It does seem like they need to talk to this makes sense to me. Like, after the third week of protests, it's like, all right, guys, like, what are we actually doing?
Yeah. Also, protest is a very generous word. Okay. It looks like the DOJ is actually cracking down on the resistance to ICE-led immigration enforcement in Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, and several other top Minnesota Democrat officials have been served federal grand jury subpoenas in an ongoing investigation related to the massive pushback against ICE that has been raging for weeks now in the state. The subpoenas are part of an ongoing criminal investigation into whether these officials unlawfully conspired to obstruct or impede federal immigration enforcement operations, especially the recent surge of ICE and Customs Border Protection agents in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Prosecutors have requested records and communications from their offices to explore whether actions or public statements may have violated federal obstruction laws. The investigation centers on clashes between state and local officials and the Trump administration's Operation Metro Surge, which is a large-scale immigration enforcement effort in Minnesota. Walz, Fry, and others have been vocally critical of the federal operation, accusing federal agents of dangerous tactics and constitutional violations. They've also encouraged documentation and public awareness of enforcement actions. Federal authorities are examining whether those actions actually cross into legally actionable areas. The reaction from Walz and Fry has been predictable. Both leaders have denounced the subpoenas. Walz has called the investigation politically motivated and argued it aims to intimidate opponents. Fry described the federal action as an attempt to intimidate local leaders doing their jobs and said Americans should be concerned about the precedent that this would set. For maximum clarity, a grand jury subpoena does not charge anyone with a crime. It simply compels the production of evidence in an ongoing probe. It is, think of it as an early step in a federal criminal investigation, not a criminal indictment itself. Now, to me, what is going on there falls short of the Insurrection Act, so I certainly don't want to see them doing that. But it seems pretty self-evident that the government in Minnesota actively wants to repel federal law enforcement. I haven't looked this up, but I am absolutely shocked that you can be a sanctuary city, that you can go on record saying that we're not going to assist federal law enforcement. It's crazy. I'm pretty sure that the states actually have the right to do it, but it seems insane to me. Now, obviously, it's within certain limitations. But yeah, this one seems wild. If the federal government is sending in ICE agents to do a raid and you are encouraging people in ways that definitely seem obstructionary to me to go in, track them down, blow whistles, all that stuff, that you are obviously impeding law enforcement. So that one is, this falls into what I call the Second Amendment bucket. I want to remind everybody that the way our Constitution is written, it is super skeptical of the government itself becoming tyrannical. And I think it was Jefferson that said basically that freedom is watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants alike, something like that. So basically saying that, yeah, governments become tyrannical. And yes, American people are almost certainly going to have to fight back against their own government. And so I'm like, okay, like people have the quote unquote right to do it. But once you start violating laws, just keep in mind, if you roll up with an assault rifle, then you're going to get shot if you start using that assault rifle inappropriately. So you put yourself in a hyper dangerous situation. So I say all of that only so that people don't LARP or cosplay. If this is your stand, fair enough. I respect every person's right to make that stand. Everybody has to decide for themselves where that line is, where you really believe that you're protecting Americans from a tyrannical government. But damn, immigration enforcement does not seem like the place. So yeah, we'll see how this one plays out. But I remain glad that Trump has yet to invoke the Insurrection Act. That statement may age poorly. We'll see. But yes, so far I think it's good.
And this also brings up what happened on Sunday. For those that don't know, a group of protesters stormed a church where the pastor was doxxed into being realized that he was an ICE officer, and they took over his church. Don Lemon was there on the scene. And for some reason, people are putting this on Don Lemon, like he organized a protest. Yes, to me, this is a Nick Shirley move. Like it's the worst form of journalism in the sense that you're like in the thick of things, but not necessarily to help, but kind of to stoke the fires and point it out and like blame. But at the same time, I don't know if Don Lemon should be the one that is getting crucified, just like Nick Shirley shouldn't be the one that's getting called out for fraud because you found it. But this is the interview he had with the pastor while they were still protesting in his congregation.
What do you think of this? I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a
no
Christian?
one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't understand why this one has caught fire in the way that it has. So maybe it's like a religious thing and like people are really bothered that
they stormed the church.
Yeah.
You
So
think that
when I watched this, I was like, yeah. So here's my read on this. If Don Lemon is prosecuted for this, as people are saying that he should be, I think that that would be an absolute outrage. And I cannot believe that people are not thinking from the level of policy. If you make it a policy that kind of thing cross some sort of line, because there is an act, the FACE Act or something like that, that supposedly protects people from, I think it's meant originally as racial antagonism. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if they're going to pull forward a statute like that, dude, it is going to be used against you so fast. So yeah, look, I thought it was obnoxious. I think in the court of public opinion, if people want to say this is horrible and we should all respect people's places of worship, great. But then don't let me see you roll up on a mosque. So as long as everybody is going to be like, yeah, cool. As a matter of policy, if you're in doing your thing, like all that's off limits. I love that culturally we say certain things are off limits. No problem. So if we're going to say that when people are in worship, great. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, yeah, this is protesters doing protestery things. As far as I can tell, it was all peaceful. So yeah, cool, whatever. Now, I think it's asinine that people are doing this kind of thing because somebody is for a thing that they're against. I say, take that in the public forum, deal with that, like going out and protesting ICE actions in a coordinated, non-obstructive way. Cool. Mm-hmm. Going into a church, yeah, this one seemed, because you think the pastor is pro-ICE, that one seems stupid. Now, the thing that really has me wound up that's on the back of this that I think people should be saving all of their rage for is, and you can see the clips, this is in, I think I pulled this, something where it says 6 minute mark. There we go. I think this is Tim Pool. People getting attacked for looking like ICE. So this thing, now here's where I'm like, what is happening right now? How is it possible that people are following people just for rolling up into Minneapolis, stealing cameras from journalists? I don't care whether you like them or not, dragging them down along the sidewalk. I don't care if you're traumatized that they're filming something. I don't care if they actively are racist. Stealing their camera and driving down the street with them attached to the side of your car is pure insanity. Expecting people to pull over for somebody who's not law enforcement is fucking insane. The video that we showed in the last one where Jake Lang, I believe is his name. Mm-hmm. I'm perfectly willing to accept Jake Lang is a horrible person, but the mob dragging him away, attempting to stab him, only being stopped because he's wearing a vest, a bulletproof vest, like all of that stuff, that is insane. Letting just whole city go vigilante is so nuts. So getting up in arms about the Don Lemon protest is just like, what are we doing? Is this just because the right hates Don Lemon? Like, this seems so asinine. So yeah, personally, I actually like the Nick Shirley style journalism. If journalists, look, once this became an ad model, everything changed. Mm-hmm. And you could no longer be the high and mighty journalist just because there's no money in it. Cool. People are going to follow the financial incentives. It is what it is. I'm very sad because that was a pretty awesome era. But again, it was probably largely spin and far less reality anyway. So yeah, I like that people can go and say, this is what I think is true. So yeah, I'm here for this era. But anyway, I think people have their energy pointed in the wrong direction.
And then one more from out there. Let's go over to the Brooklyn.
Wait. No. We got to show some of these things from what's his face that I was narrating over. Tim Pool.
I closed it.
6 minute mark. 6 minutes was rough, so forgive me for being in the middle of something useless.
This has got to be the funniest thing I've ever seen. I know, it's like you feel like a zoo.
I've never.
So right now, it just looks like people looking in a window. More whistle blowing. If I hear whistles now, I'm just going to think of Minnesota. It's like the state bird at this point.
If you're not with us, then you're against us. Get out of our effing neighborhood. But wait, who are these guys?
Okay, yeah. So pause for a sec. So I can't remember how much is already played, but these are supposedly, reportedly, who knows what ends up being true in the fullness of time. But these guys are like app developers, and this mob just starts going after them because they say they look like they might be ICE. All right, play it.
Oh, clear. I work. Oh my God. What? We do custom apps for a whole bunch of companies around Minnesota and the country. Why are you filming us? Because you're filming us.
This is one of those things that's kind of funny now, but it is going to keep escalating. And that's the thing that I worry about. Like, Trump has to make sure that law and order is followed, but at the same time, by sending a bunch of people there, you're going to end up inflaming tensions even more, which means you're going to have to crack down even harder, which means that they're going to push back even more. And so I just don't know how far this is going to escalate before we hit some sort of snapping point. But play it, because I think there's more to come here.
Here's a guy being mercilessly beaten.
Yeah, literally, they're like punching this guy in the head. The one that
supporting ICE.
So again, let's say that he does support ICE. That does not give you the right to physically assault him.
They're trying
Hitting
to kill
him
him.
with flags and stuff. It's wild.
As far as we know, it's just some random guy.
Skip
There's
forward a
more.
little bit.
Anti-Islam activists.
Okay, so we already showed this one. This is where Jake Lang gets drugged off. Fast forward. We want. Yeah. This one.
And show
Rewind.
us
A little bit.
Will Stancil says.
Okay, this one's crazy.
By the way, whichever press crew this is, you need to find a more official-looking way to tell us, or even just pull over and show us your credentials when you get a tail. We followed you for 20 minutes because you were acting exactly like ICE does when they catch a tail. Pull over, he said. This is the point. They are acting like law enforcement. They are saying
yes, they're acting like law enforcement.
For us.
And then B, dude, the level of entitlement is so wild. You're not law enforcement. Like, you do not have the right to pull people over. That is so outrageous. So anyway, I worry about that kind of stuff escalating. And yeah. I think this one,
freedom.
Okay, stop for a sec. So I hate this one maybe the most out of all of them. So this guy, again, just assume that he's like the most pro-ICE person there trying to agitate ever. I don't need you to assume good intentions about this guy, but he could also just be a guy. And he's walking down the street with a sweatshirt that says the very offensive phrase, freedom. And this is how they react.
He's not even a white dude.
Needless to say, I'm kidding about freedom being offensive. Okay, they're pulling on it. They're trying to yank, like a mob of people are trying to physically remove this guy's sweatshirt.
Take it off, they said.
And they're now being so aggressive towards him that he's actually taking the sweatshirt off.
Get your ass up out of here.
And they are forcing him to leave. Like, this is so crazy.
Now, I don't know who that guy is. My immediate assumption is he's probably just a random regular guy.
That is...
Because he...
Yeah. As of right now, parts of Minneapolis are not free. And it is because you have roaming bands of thugs, no matter how right they believe themselves to be, going in and adjudicating what they believe we'll call moral law on the streets. That is crazy.
Agreed.
This is crazy. So you don't have to have official brown shirts to have brown shirts. Like, this is unacceptable. Again, not insurrection, but this is the kind of thing that Minneapolis police should be stopping immediately. You cannot allow this kind of thing. That guy was assaulted. He was so assault, I think, is when you like get in somebody's face. He was also battered because they were putting their hands all over him, yanking on his sweatshirt and stuff. Like, that is crazy. And not a single one of those people is going to be prosecuted.
Somebody said it's a Karenocracy.
Yeah, that's funny. But this is Karenocracies rapidly turn into kill them. And then they actually do. This is the part where I'm like, I don't know if people think that we're at the end of history and people don't kill people anymore, but like this stuff escalates until people are actually killed. And so you're on a spectrum, but it is a very unpleasant spectrum from where I'm sitting.
And then the last beat on this, the Karen Inquisition. Y'all are crazy.
That's pretty funny.
The Brooklyn police chief, Mark Burley, addressed media yesterday about the last 2 weeks in Minnesota.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Burley, police chief of the city of Brooklyn Park. Behind me is a bunch of amazing police chiefs that are here in support of a very short but very important message that we want to share with you. What you won't hear from many of us today is rhetoric of abolish ICE or that there shouldn't be immigration enforcement. The truth is, immigration enforcement is necessary for our national security and for local security. But how it's done is extremely important. In fact, we have a long history of working exceptionally well with our federal partners, including ICE agents, and we have seen the best of them perform their job extremely well in the past. With that
Pause
said,
it for a second. Okay, here's where I lose my mind. If the federal government comes to you and says, hey, you've got this bad dude and he's being detained already, let us pick him up. And you say, yeah, cool, great. If they say, you have bad dude, let us come pick him up, he's illegal, we want to deport him, and you go, no, then it's like, hold on, you are creating your own problem. I don't even understand the logic. You have somebody who violated the law. They are here illegally. Let's just assume that that's accurate. They're here illegally, and you're still going to release them. Oh, and by the way, some of these people have committed the most heinous crimes, and they're still protecting them. Like, if I were going to mentally map, what are we talking about here? We are talking about somebody that needs to be in control. We're talking about somebody that wants to take every opportunity to grab power. We're talking about somebody who believes that they are morally justified. Like, you get into, so they've got the whole idea of dark triad. I don't know what this combination of traits is, but it is horrifying. And it comes out en masse when law and order begin to break down. And it is beyond me that they are fighting to harbor these people instead of saying, yeah, we've already got this guy in custody, absolutely come by and pick him up. So that's where I'm like, hold on, this rhetoric does not match what's actually happening.
I think that goes down to what he said to start this, though, is that the way that it's done would dictate that. Because I think at the start of the immigration enforcement, it was the embracing of power given versus the methodologies and way they did it. How you just described it was logical. Okay, we're instituting this new initiative. We're going to call all the local law enforcement. We're going to get them on the same page, and we're going to do it. But when policies dictated by tweets, they travel a lot faster than logistical and federal government interest.
Yeah, but understand, we end up here because these guys are saying we won't hand them over. So if I don't see in what world Trump sends ICE in like a bunch of stormtroopers, if the governments are like, yeah, no, take them, please.
So you think that Trump asks people to hand the people over and the sanctuary cities were like, absolutely not.
100%.
And then Trump was like, okay, y'all should put on masks then and go get them.
Yes.
That was the order of operations.
1,000%.
Got it. I fundamentally disagree. I think that Trump said everybody's rapists and murderers, but then instead of going to the prisons, he went to a bunch of Home Depots and places that were stereotypically found where a lot of illegal aliens are like congregate. And he went there with masks and started taking people off.
Trump has been saying since the beginning, if these guys would just let us grab the people that are in custody, we would not have to come in and do this. Now, maybe that's a lie. Maybe he would still do it.
Yeah, Trump never lies.
But he is in a position where they are actively saying we won't hand them over. So that's where I'm like, sure, it's possible that both are true. But let's focus on the one that's just empirical, which is sanctuary states state specifically, we will not cooperate with federal law enforcement. We will not allow you to grab people that are in custody. And so as long as that remains true, it's like, this is how we end up here. And so given that they are illegal, I'm not sure what grounds they have to push back on that. So again, this is one of those where I have to look at what legally what states can do. There's obviously a certain amount that they can do. Take weed in California. technically, the feds could come in and raid California. And I remember that was like a big deal. And it was like, oh, you're doing something that federally they could come in and snatch people up. Obviously, that wasn't politically going to be useful for anybody, so nobody's done it. So similar thing. Apparently, they can, to some degree, say we're not going to cooperate or whatever, but they can't impede. So it's like, we're not going to help you, but we can't stop you. And so that seems to be where the line is, and that seems to be what's being explored right now with the federal grand jury indictments, or subpoenas, excuse me, where they're saying, like, have they crossed a line where it goes now into obstruction and impedance? But yeah, for my money, it is just wild. Like, I can't follow the logic. So when I say with weed, I'm like, yeah, I get the logic. The logic is this drug is not that harmful. It should be treated like alcohol. Putting people in prison not only ends up being wildly discriminatory in terms of who it affects, but it's also just a dumb idea. And so let's legalize this. It's growing in popularity easy to give the logic. Also, we can tax it. Now the logic for fighting that hard for illegal immigrants. What? Like, I can't track, especially if that person has been convicted of heinous crimes. It's like, let's get that person out of your town. So the only reason that when I mentally map it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense, is we're trying to import voters. We want to get these groups voting as a block, and that's how we stay in power. It's a brilliant strategy for doing that, but it's absolutely horrible for keeping the streets safe. It's also knock-on consequences for the economy. So yeah, I can't join them in their justification, even if I disagree, but like, oh, I follow your logic. None of it makes sense.
Do you want to cue up the Supreme Court?
Always.
Let's do it.
Always. All right. This one, boys and girls, is a copy-paste in terms of the facts of what the Supreme Court can and can't do. So forgive me if this trails off. We'll see. The Supreme Court has addressed issues related to reasonable suspicion, the standard for brief investigative stops. So if you're trying to pull somebody over and figuring out who they are, that's what we're talking about here, including inquiries about immigration status or papers in areas with high populations of undocumented immigrants from specific ethnic groups, particularly in the context of Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable seizures. Note that probable cause is actually a higher standard, typically required for arrests or searches, but not for initial stops to ask questions. So these are two totally different standards that are applied. Below, I'm going to outline the key rulings, focusing on whether ethnicity can serve as a basis for such stops or not. So you've got the United States versus Brignoni-Ponce. This was back in 1975. The landmark case involved Border Patrol roving patrols near the U.S.-Mexico border, stopping vehicles to question occupants about their immigration status. What the court ruled was that officers cannot stop a vehicle and inquire about citizenship or immigration status based solely on the occupant's apparent Mexican ancestry. But there are some key points to this. Reasonable suspicion requires specific, articulable facts that together with rational inferences suggest the vehicle may contain individuals unlawfully in the country. Factors like proximity to the border can actually be taken into consideration. Unusual traffic patterns, vehicle characteristics, driver behavior, and officers' experience can all contribute to reasonable suspicion. However, apparent Mexican ancestry alone is insufficient, as it does not reasonably indicate illegal presence. It merely describes a broad group that includes many U.S. citizens and lawful residents. The ruling emphasized that ethnicity can be a relevant factor only when combined with other specific indicators, but not as the sole basis for a stop. Stops must be brief and limited in scope. Further detention requires probable cause or consent, right? That second higher standard. This decision set the baseline that ethnicity alone does not justify immigration-related stops, even in broader regions with high undocumented populations from Mexico, for instance. Noem versus Vasquez in 2025. In this recent 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court stayed a lower court order, meaning they paused it, restricting federal immigration agents in the Los Angeles area home to about 2 million undocumented immigrants, which is roughly 10% of the population, from making stops based on factors including apparent race, ethnicity. Now, I can tell right now without looking up G's on teleprompter, right? No, it has to be G.
No, it's Eric.
No way.
Yeah.
Eric is fucking with me. Is this a test, Eric? To see if I can prognosticate what the next line is? I'm like, he's going to scroll. I know he's going to scroll. All right, keep it in the middle. All right. Let's go down. So anyway, you guys get the gist. I actually don't need to read the rest of it. So, okay.
See how they do you, G? Messed up.
I know.
Messed up, bro.
G got drugged on that one. The funny thing is, G the other day, I was like, oh God, constantly at the bottom, like speaking very slowly as we get towards the end. Okay, so anyway, the punchline of all that is you can stop people, but not for race alone. But race is a factor. And when you were saying that, I think that they're just rolling up to Home Depots because that's where the stereotype is that people are going to be hanging out. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're trying to do broad sweeps, you go where the fish are, as they say. Mm-hmm. So if we already have a Supreme Court decision on this, which is you can't simply pull somebody over because they match a profile, but you can if the profile is a broader range of things taken into consideration. And to me, that is the only logical answer, which is you don't want people being harassed simply because of they match a profile. Like I don't want to get yanked over every time someone's worried about a school shooter, even though I matched a profile. Not my age anymore, but
never gonna
back in the day. But if I roll up with a trench coat and I'm gothed out, then maybe you should have a word with me.
Yeah. I exhausted all care in this topic. Anything else?
I'm so curious, Drew. I don't want to put you through it, but what do you mean you exhausted your care?
I ran out. I got nothing. I got nothing anymore.
Because you're fatigued? Like it's just an obnoxious topic that you don't...
At this point, it's talking points versus talking points. It's not... It's...
What do you want to see happen with this?
That people who have criminal records, who are in jail, we go to the jails and we get them. And people who have records, we should know where their houses are and we go there and we get them. And people who are law enforcement officers, they show up as law enforcement officers. But when people are getting pulled over with masks on and people are saying, hey, you don't sound like you're from here. Where are you from? Where are your papers? I feel like we kind of lost the plot at that point because if it's 10 million and we have this 10 million and Joe Biden did all these things and we have this long list and we have the fake social security numbers, then don't we have addresses and bookmarks and stuff? Why are we doing traffic stops? Why are we doing DUI checkpoints for immigration? Again, Obama deported way more people and he did it way better.
There we go. Period.
Ipso facto.
Very clear.
All right, I got some memes. I want to get into memes.
Go, Drew.
I want to get into memes.
About time.
First one. Trump disguises himself as a Muslim migrant so Europe will let him invade Greenland. I enjoyed this one. Nah, come on. I got two Snickers. I got two Snickers in the skull.
Hilarious.
I'll take that. Yeah.
That is distressing but funny. Yeah. Drew coming in hot with the memes. Like that one is like
that's a good one.
That's spicy. Playing with Muslims. They don't play back, Drew.
I want no problem, Sneeko.
They don't take kindly.
I want no problem, Sneeko.
I've had it's the one thing that I've had people roll into like, I've got your personal phone number because I know you and be like, yo, watch your tone.
Yeah, they know. Like you can say whatever.
Damn.
You can't say what you want about the J people because they'll cancel you. You can say whatever you want about Christianity. If you say what you want about Islam, there's going to be an attack. So it's like you can risk your life or risk your career, or you can just talk about Christians.
Have you seen the Jimmy Carr bit about that? Oh man, I don't know how fast we can pull it up, but it is hilarious. If you type in Jimmy Carr Muslim or Jimmy Carr Islam, be very curious to see if it pops up. That is definitely not it. That's not it. That might be it. Yeah, try that.
Same jokes about Muhammad. Well, obviously, I'm not going to be telling the same jokes about Muhammad. I'd feel very comfortable telling about Jesus Christ. So if you're a Christian and you're sat there thinking, well, that's not fair, well, then maybe, as a Christian, you should think about blowing something up. What are the Christians going to do? Forgive me.
It was good.
That is good.
It's good.
That is a good one. Laugh. That is a good one. I'll take that. Okay, meme number 2. Can you bring it back on me? I don't want to reveal the spreadsheet, so that way we have stalkers in the spreadsheet again.
We had stalkers in the spreadsheet at one point?
Yeah, one of the viewers found the spreadsheet and was like lurking, so we had to like lock it.
That's hilarious.
You know, the internet. Okay, I'm ready. China's global strategy: do nothing, win. America's global strategy: spend $8 trillion on the war chair, ignore international law, destroy the Millionese, kill 1 million people, support Nazis in Ukraine, blow everything up in China, still lose.
That is so off base. It's funny, but China's is starve 45 million people to death, reunite the country. Bro, this is China's history. This is the most hysterical, ahistoric like take on China
in the
ever.
last 5 years.
It's lock everybody the fuck down. You finally get rid of the evil dictator that's killing people en masse. Praise Jesus. But when the people start to rise up and go, hold on, we would like democracy. We don't want another dictator, no matter how nice you say you're going to be. And so they go, and I quote, shoot them all in the face. And they slaughter their own people in Tiananmen Square and are like, y'all bitches are going to calm the fuck down. You are going to do exactly what we say. We are going to put people in all of your companies, and you guys are going to allow us to wield you and this economy as one block. Oh, by the way, and I forgot the part about we're going to roll up on your house, and if you're having a second child, we are going to harangue you to abort that child endlessly until we create our own catastrophic demographic problems. And by the way, after Deng Xiaoping brings in like all the reforms in the world and China is skyrocketing out of poverty, we're going to let another Mao type figure start killing off all of his opponents in purges so that he can regain power and can once again put a nice heavy boot on the neck of any uppity entrepreneur that thinks that they're bigger than the government. These guys, respect them for their discipline, but don't say they did nothing. These guys have been so hardcore, so long-term thinking, so draconian, so willing to kill their own people to get everybody on the same fucking page. Oh, and by the way, they train the life out of their children. I was watching, in fact, I should have pulled some of this. I was having an existential crisis for the children of America yesterday. Have you seen the stuff about teachers saying like, I'm quitting because these kids, it is like crowd control. Mm-hmm. I am simply dealing with drug addicts, but the drug is their iPhone. Their symptoms of withdrawal. If I bring in a TV to show them like a movie, they want to tap out because it doesn't like hold their attention enough. And I was like, whoa. And the percentage of people, it's like 30% of people read at grade level. It might be lower. That's me like, and I'm just like, what? So yeah, China is, we're going to educate our kids. We are draconian and Tom is not here for it. So please don't think that this is me clapping for them, but it is certainly not them doing nothing. We're going to limit the amount that they can play video games. We're going to lock the internet down. We're going to control every aspect of your life. And we're going to make sure that you turn into good soldiers. And I have the good fortune of knowing a Chinese national. And she was like, I could never move back to China. And I was like, whoa, why? And she's like, they work so hard. And she's like, I've just been in the West for too long. But like, imagine all of that with a Chinese accent. So it's not like somebody where they like grew up in the West. And so I'm like, yo. So anyway, they like go hard. They go hard.
Imagine what I just said in a Chinese accent.
Yeah. So,
all right. I think it's important to cover these memes though, because it really highlights the cultural energy of stuff going on.
No joke.
So this is a period. Next one. I just did my taxes. I owe Israel $1,281, ICE $742, Argentina $311, the ballroom $239, and 47 cents to poor people.
Drew, this is the greatest post I've ever seen in my life.
Here all day.
This is exactly what people should be seeing. So I was reading the Constitution yesterday, and one of the things, no, for real.
Light flex.
One of the things, it's like weird flex, bro. One of the things says that periodically, worded slightly differently, but this is a punchline. Periodically, the way that the government spends your money will be detailed. And I'm like, we need to pull that front and center.
Yeah.
So
where's that period happening?
Yeah, because if you really saw, like you personally spent this much on the interest on our debt, seizure, this much on the military, seizure, this much on benefits, seizure. When you start hearing about all the fraud and stuff and you realize like, yo, what percentage of that did I pay to those like different entitlements and how much fraud is there? So wait, how much did I pay for the fraud? Like you can start quantifying this stuff. People would lose their mind. There are so many old quotes about make sure that the populace never understands how money actually works, because if they understood it, they would revolt. It's so true. If people actually understood how their money was being spent, they would lose their minds. So I love this. I love this more.
All right. And here's a joke circulating in Germany. What borders on stupidity?
Germans are known for their humor.
What borders on stupidity? Mexico and Canada.
Oh, ayo, Cat McButterfly. I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
This Greenland thing that was really pissing like Europeans.
Oh God, did you see this reply though? At Grok, translate this post to Arabic so Germans can read it. Damn. Damn.
Kept going. It kept going.
They like came in hot.
There it is. Yeah, that's what the internet is talking about right now.
That's amazing.
All right, so a lot's going on, a lot's happening in the world. Yeah. We talked about that. I actually this a couple days ago. Like Trump should probably let this Greenland thing go, but it seems like it just keeps getting like doubling down and then quadrupling down, and then now Canada is saying we're gonna stand with the Nordic countries. UK sent half a soldier in 3 boots.
Well, Canada said we're gonna stand with China and the Nordic countries. Yes. Read as we will partner with whoever we need to.
Yeah, Europe is sending people boots on the ground to do simulations as if actual invasion will happen. Is there something that can happen on the world stage that would make Trump be like, you know what? All right, Greenland, I don't need to buy you. Maybe we could just come up with an intermediate deal. Or maybe this is just another tariff thing where he threatens the end zone, but he really just wants a couple yards.
Yeah, he would need an exit ramp. So he would need something that he can go back to his base. I heard, I don't know that this is true. I've not looked this up at all, but I heard a rumor that among Republicans, he has an over 90% approval rating. So if that can be believed, the things he's doing are extremely popular with his base. And now what he has to worry about is pissing them off, because you can do a lot if you control the House and the Senate and your base loves what you're doing, and you can do effectively nothing if you lose your own base. Obviously, if you lose the House and or the Senate, which people are expecting, myself included, if it were taken right now today. So he needs an off-ramp so that he can tell his base, this was awesome. We got what we wanted. I never really expected to buy Greenland. It'd be great, but like we wanted this. I don't know what this is. So that one, I'm like, he really seems like he's going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. But now if something makes him go, this might be worse than expected, he's shown that he'll back off, but he's going to need a story. Yeah. So I just don't know what the story is. But Trump has certainly never been afraid to change his mind, no matter how outrageous the things that he was saying were. So we'll see. I'm obviously extremely hopeful that he backs off of this one, because GTP diplomacy and literally taking Greenland is a terrible fucking strategy, because at that point you have legitimately become the thing that you're warning against. Like, what's your argument against Russia invading Ukraine exactly at that point? What? Huh? It's like, bro,
kettle
yeah,
pot.
you just said that you nonstop ending wars. They don't give you the Nobel Peace Prize and you invade a country that has nothing to do with the Nobel Peace. What? Like, huh? It's a private organization. First of all, let's start with that. Second, it's not even in the same country. Oh my God, it's so wild. Yeah. So I don't know what the exit ramp will be. Please let there be an exit ramp.
Copy. All right, jumping into culture. This video floated around about some dating advice to women. We're going to react to that. And then...
by the way, really fast, Lisa and I she's going to hate that I say may be relaunching our relationship show under a new brand called Love Theory.
Whoop, whoop.
So curious to know if people are interested in that. I don't think of my audience. It's so funny. My audience has not universally been friendly to Lisa. They think of her as wearing the pants in the family, which is amusing. And her audience thinks I'm a raging narcissist. So they're just like, poor Lisa is trapped. So it will be very interesting to see if we can somehow bring our audiences together. Because I warned Lisa, I'm like, listen, I'm going to be me. I'm going to say the me things. And relationship shows are for women. My demographics are boys and girls right now. We're 80% male on this channel and 20% female. Well, shout out to my 20% females. I appreciate you guys. I don't know if you're hate watching, but I love it.
Thank you.
So,
We need more
but
estrogen in.
anyway, it'll be interesting to see if that plays. But okay, with that, here we go.
If you could give a single girl some dating advice, what would you say to her?
How old?
Let's say she's like 21.
Oh, 21. Just bang them all. Bang them all, because men are so immature that you're not gonna lock anyone down. Don't even start thinking yet about the husband stuff. But I will say, bang dudes quietly. Don't tell everybody. Shut the f- about it. Just go do your business. Bang girls, bang guys, bang dogs, trans,
Whoa!
whatever you want.
I got aggressive.
But keep an eye out for the good ones in your college.
I know she's kidding.
You know what I'm saying?
but
Like,
still.
keep the solid dudes in your back pocket. Like, befriend them, but don't f- them or date them or nothing until you're kind of like older and you're ready to like settle down with a boy.
Yeah.
And then call that guy up, like that one you had your eyes on, and then be like, "What's up, dude?"
I'm so curious to know when because this is Tom Segura's wife. Yeah? Pretty sure, right? Okay, so confirmation from our mans over there. So I'd be very curious to know if that's a strategy that she ran with him or not. So here's why I think this is ultimately terrible advice. Not because I think that people having sex is bad, they should have as much sex as they're enjoying, but women need to understand just a hard fact about reality, which is that women are prized for their beauty and youth. And so you don't want to give your youth away cheaply. So be very thoughtful about that. That's why typically women tend to date a man that is slightly older than them, because you're already trying to deal with the fact that men mature more slowly than women by saying, oh, well, I'm going to grab, I think the average is like 3 or 4 years. So I'm going to go after somebody that's slightly older than me to deal with that versus wait until we're both much older. Also, my advice to young people, if you can find the right person early, it is extremely advantageous to get together young-ish, call it early to mid-20s. Now, I have a bias because that's exactly what I did, and it worked out so well for me. But when I think about the way that Lisa and I have shaped each other, when I think about to impress my wife, who was at the beginning of our marriage really quite traditional, to impress my wife, I had to get better at a lot of things. And my wife pushed me to get better, and she had very high standards. And so that gave me something to aim at. To be worthy of her sexual access, I had to become a far better version of myself. And that was awesome. And also just having somebody smart that could help me think through problems was incredibly useful. And she thinks very differently than I do. We are very much, in business terms, they would refer to it as the rocket and the fuel, and or the kite and the string, which feels a little more derogatory, but is maybe as a metaphor better. So the kite is the visionary, the one saying we should go here, we should do this, and really pulling on the string. And then the string provides the stability and keeps the kite from just flying off and crashing into a tree. And Lisa and I have that dynamic. She is an executor. She goes, oh, that's what we're doing? I'm going to go do that well. This is me from her perspective. I have a mind for logistics. I'm going to button everything down. I'm going to make sure that the rubber meets the road, that our budget is balanced and all of that stuff. And she was extraordinarily good at that. Whereas I would get one grand idea after the next and want to pursue them all. And she was a restraining force that caused me to focus. So extremely valuable. And then also, because we were both young, I wasn't some older guy that's going, I don't want women my age. I want somebody younger. You're able to, God, this is going to sound terrible, but it's so true. I'm just going to say it. You're able to leverage your youth as a part of your sexual market value. And so a big part of the reason that I was attracted to Lisa was that she was young and beautiful. And so I was like, yeah, I'll take some of this. And that initial sexual attraction is what drew me in close enough to find out that the person was actually interesting. And so we've somehow acted like, because our social layer has changed, that we can overlook the fact that our biological nature has not changed at all. And men are going to always and forever be attracted to youth and beauty. I've talked about this stat before, but if you look at women, they find men attractive that are in a 4-year band to them. It's like 2 years up, 2 years down. And no matter what age they are, that's the age that they say they find attractive. So if they're 40, they find a guy 42, 38 to 42 attractive. Men, no matter what age they are, find a 22-year-old attractive. So there you have it. So for women to sort of forfeit the most profound sexual market value years of their life strikes me as terrible fucking advice. Period.
So that's advice for women. I think I'm going to actually give some advice to young men right now. But as I was doing research for the show, I watched, I think his name is Clavicle.
Sorry, really fast. Somebody in chat is asking a question that I'm so shocked by, and it's Brutus Lugo because it's in all caps. So the woman is saying, go out, bang people, have a lot of fun. Don't even think about getting serious with somebody until you and they are older. And I'm saying, don't do that. Try to find somebody when you're young. If you need to date somebody older to find somebody of equal maturity, great. Getting a high body count would not be my advice. I'm just saying, I don't care if people do it. That's whatever. But certainly my advice is not go fuck everybody, which was literally her advice. So hopefully that makes it clear.
All right.
Drew, we do have 2 super chats on ice whenever you want to get back to those.
Oh, well, let's do the super chats.
All right. From DK the Sage, if I can speak properly. The sanctuary cities are actively destroying democracy by packing districts with a demographic they know is going to vote for them.
That sounds
They flipped
true.
California blue almost permanently by doing it and are doing it in these other states.
That sounds true to me. The more that I look at the potential voter fraud, the more I'm like, ooh, I think this is going to be the next gigantic scandal that's going to be coming out. I would expect that to hit sometime in 2026. I don't know if we'll get to it before the midterms, but I'd be shocked if we don't get to it. So yeah, like changing the voter laws, uncovering voter fraud feels pretty urgent.
Last one, we've got Loquacious Mama. What do you recommend we do to push back against ICE using unconstitutional practices, Tom? The stories coming out of MSP are horrific.
Yeah, so anytime that you think somebody is doing something unconstitutional, I love that you have the right to protest, make your voices heard, going to the Capitol, putting on public events, like even the No King stuff. I thought was really great. It got a ton of buzz, got a ton of people paying attention, and all very peaceful. So if you can capture that kind of energy, keep it sustained, I think that that's the right play. And then also making sure that you have allies that are actually pushing this stuff through the court system. It often doesn't happen nearly as fast as people want, but it does eventually happen. And so getting all of these things ruled on in some way is what we want to do. Now, the thing that I would love to see more energy around people pushing back on is that the 3 branches of government right now are not holding each other in like the right sort of rock, paper, scissor way that they're supposed to be holding each other. And Congress being basically silent all the time seems super fucking weird. Them not working across the aisle is terrible. They should 100% be marching towards something that is based on a set of principles rather than just the charismatic leader at the top. That would be way, way, way better. So yeah, that's how I'd love to see this play out. Push things through the court system, protest endlessly but peacefully, and march it through the actual system.
You heard about the craze of like Looksmaxing?
Yes. Lisa and I were just looking at reel yesterday of a kid, and she was so confused as to what he was doing. So he's like pushing on his face and grabbing his neck. She's like, what the fuck? And she's like, what is he doing? And I was like, supposedly chiseling his jaw. So yes.
I want you to watch this clip.
All right.
What drugs do you take in a day? I'm taking testosterone every single day. I take minoxidil for my hair. I take dutasteride for my hair. I take 7.5 milligrams of Accutane a day. I use crystal meth as a stimulant and Tolene Max. It's much more mild than Adderall, actually, and I'm pretty much using meth for hollow cheeks.
So I'm using the meth for hollow cheeks.
He's like 19. I think he's 20 now or something like that. He was part of the Creep Avengers in Miami.
The who Avengers?
The Creep Avengers. In
what are the Creep Avengers?
Andrew Tate, Sneeko, all those guys.
So he's famous, and I just don't know him.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it was one of those things where he's like, yeah, I take a bunch of these like supplements, and I think everybody should do that, and they should like shoot themselves up. And like, to me, you're 19, and I feel like if you're shooting yourself up with that much drugs at that point, like when your body turns 30, it's like plastic surgery. There's always a cost on the other side. What are your initial reactions on like people who are trying to like drug themselves to a perfect look?
Let me first address Looksmaxing.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. Do any healthy and safe thing that you can do to optimize your appearance. It's going to make you feel better. It will put you in a higher sexual market value, but like megaton emphasis on safe and healthy. And healthy psychologically as well, because there really is a point at which you spill into, you just become so body obsessed that you're not able to enjoy your life. So it's like, you've really got to be careful of that. But I will say that I'm really glad that I had like it was almost a decade where I was really hardcore about my physique, and it felt awesome. I felt great for some of it. For some of it, I was in rabbit starvation, and that did not feel good. But it was very empowering to understand that I could take control of my physique. I could take control of my strength, all of that stuff. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I want that for every young man out there to experience that, to get themselves in shape. But I gave my wife the emotional set of keys at the beginning. And I said, listen, I would make the world's most extraordinary anorexic because my will is undefeated. Once I set my mind to something, that's that. I'm going to do that thing, like even if it kills me. But I'm like, I don't want it to kill me. But I know that I'm going to get into an obsessive phase. And so I'm going to trust you to say, you're now taking it too far. And no matter what, at that moment, I will stop. And so about 2 years into cutting, so I'd been working on my strength for years, but about 2 years into cutting and getting lean, she said, okay, you don't have a personality anymore. You need to stop. Like, this is too much. And so I stopped. And that worked perfectly. Now you have to know thyself, right? So one, I knew not to trust the like way that I can get obsessed about something can go way too far. And so I have this external person who I know loves me, cares about me, wants to see good things for me. And I'll just blindly trust them on this thing to say enough is enough. And I'm not going to push back and I'm going to stop. And so one, I knew myself well enough. And two, I had that kind of partner that I didn't have any fears, both about myself. Because again, once I say enough, stop, then I stop. I think people are always surprised to hear that when I go on vacation, I actually go on vacation. I'm just like, it's good for my mental health. It creates clarity. It allows me to step back. There are things that are sort of work related that I still do. Like I'd work on Kaizen even on vacation because it's so fun. But that's purely because it is the thing I most want to do in the world. So now going into the drugs thing, I think that people, when you're young, you have such a like lack of sense of long-term consequences that people put themselves into really stupid situations. And it makes me very sad to see this kid doing that. And I'm sure that there are a gazillion kids that are going to follow along with him that are going to do things where they either don't have a kill switch in their own personality. They don't have somebody else that will say stop and they stop. They don't have any sense of at a cellular level what they're doing to themselves. So going back to when I was in rabbit starvation, what that means is I was basically taking like 95%, probably not that high, but it was ridiculously high, of my calories were from protein, period. Now, that probably sounds great, but you're an inflamed mess at that point because you don't have the fat that you need at a cellular level to put your body in a good position. And so I was icing my wrists all the time. My joints hurt. It was terrible. And I was like very confused because I'm like, my diet's so clean. I don't understand. But ended up being because I didn't have enough healthy fat. So anyway, there are things like that that are bad. And so if you don't realize they are bad and you don't know how to interpret the signals you're getting from your body, then you can just spiral. So be careful who you take advice from. Anybody that tells you to smoke meth, probably you can just immediately be like, hard pass, not taking that advice.
And last but not least, we got a class today.
Yeah, we do. All right. So this is happening literally like I have to start prepping for it in like an hour. So leadership mistakes that are costing you millions. This is one of our most productive master classes. This is for anybody that has a business that wants to scale it. You want to understand the leadership mistakes you're making, because I promise you, I walk people through this over and over and over. And you're making very basic mistakes that are costing you millions of dollars. I will walk you through exactly what you need to do to stop making those mistakes. I'm doing this obviously as a promotion for Impact Theory University, but I'm also doing this because I believe truly that entrepreneurs are the people that are going to help get the economy going in the right direction again. The only way to generate taxable revenue is to have a business that hires people, that makes a profit. So I want to make sure that I help the next generation of entrepreneurs do exactly that. So if you're at the beginning of your journey, if you are doing $100 million, I've helped people doing even more than that, and you need help breaking out of a plateau and scaling, this is the exact masterclass you're going to want to show up for. It is free, and it is today at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So free, 1 p.m. Pacific time today. Come join. There should be a link. Do we have it in
the chat?
Cool. So I'm going to walk you through something I call the TATA method. It's tactical talent acquisition and tactical assignments. I'll show you how to do that and a whole bunch of other stuff. So make sure you show up today, 1 p.m. Pacific time. All right, it's free. Hope to see you there. All right, everybody. Till next time, this Friday, in fact. Be legendary. Take care. Peace.